how the tool is useful, I think, for mapping social media crowd. Just type go.
Hello and good afternoon, NetGlow attendees. How are you all? Thank you for having me here. I'm Mark Smith. I'm here in still a very early morning in Belmont, California in the United States. Sorry I can't be with you in person, but I very much appreciate the opportunity to come and join you virtually. And what I hope to talk with you today about is our effort at the Social Media Research Foundation. We're an organization devoted to building tools for social media research. And today what I'd like to do is talk about a tool package we call NodeXL. And NodeXL is a free and open add-in for Excel, the familiar spreadsheet. And it converts Excel, as you can kind of see here, into a tool for doing social network, and in particular social media network analysis. So I'll start by just pointing out that you can find a lot of material about our project on the web. You can search for my name, for the person named Smith. I think you can actually find a lot of material about me out there. What we want to talk about, though, is the way in which social network analysis can be a useful lens for looking at social media. While it's clear that services like Facebook or VKontakte are clearly social networks, they advertise that they are a social network. It turns out that all forms of computer-mediated communication can form their own social networks. So email creates a social network. The network of people making telephone calls to one another form a social network. And so my research and my colleagues have found it very useful to study social media in the form of a social network. And social network analysis turns out to be a rich and useful language for understanding the connected structures that form when people are using the internet, when people send each other messages or form friend relationships or reply or retweet or like. All of those actions are, in essence, creating network connections. So, as we have all discovered in the last several years, as if we needed to learn it again, crowds really matter. Crowds of people have an enormous amount of power, and when crowds form anywhere on Earth, someone usually sends a photographer. And what I think is happening is that more people are now gathering in virtual crowds than ever will gather in a physical crowd. There are limits to how large a physical crowd can get, and those limits are not the same for the virtual crowd. So this is Tahrir Square. My argument is that the physical Tahrir can hold about 750,000 people. I will argue that more people tweeted about Tahrir than ever could fit in the square. So a large crowd of people has formed, but they formed in a virtual space. They formed on the landscape of social media. And my question is, how come we do not have a picture of that crowd? Why don't we send a photographer? And the answer may be that we don't have a camera. This is one of the first consumer cameras. This device made photography no longer a professional activity. Used to be a photographer meant to have advanced technical skills. Now, being a photographer means that you have a phone. And so this device was the first of many that changed the nature of the profession of photography. And my organization, the Social Media Research Foundation, hopes to provide this kind of a device, the initial basic device, to make it so that we can take pictures of crowds, but not just the crowds that form in the physical world, but these kinds of crowds. These are the crowds that form in the virtual world on the landscape of social media. And my argument is that this interface, this list of tweets, for example, and it could be anything, it could be Facebook updates or YouTube videos, that to see them in this list form, that's doing damage to the underlying shape of the crowd. Here you can see Mr. Obama pointing at his crowd, and I think what he's arguing for is improved interfaces to social media. This is a picture of the same crowd as a network. This is the network of people talking about Obama. And we can see that they did not line up single file the way the Twitter interface might suggest. They actually formed a crowd. They form a shape. And that shape is one in which we can see, at least for students of the United States' political experience, these people are not connected to these people as strongly as they are to themselves. In the United States, we have two political parties, a right-wing party and a far right-wing party. And these people are what pass for liberals in the United States, and these people are conservatives. And through network analysis, we can see that the tweet stream about political topics like the President of the United States form divided crowds, polarized crowds. And that this is only one of several shapes that form when people interact via social media. But it's a shape that we can reveal when we use network analysis and network visualization. So, social media turns out to be all about networks. It's all about sending something from one person to another person. And when we do this, when we pass pictures of cats or send each other messages, we are creating an archive of information about people's behavior and relationships. And these patterns are left behind. And the footprints in the sand, if you will, are very open to analysis. And when we look at footprints in the sand, I think we can all agree that we can tell a story about the people who are no longer here. We know which way they went, if they were alone or in pairs or in groups. We know roughly how long ago it was. So what we now want to be able to do is analyze the set of connections that are formed when people talk to people on the internet. There are other ways people form connections. They invest in each other's companies. They write about each other in the newspaper. Sometimes they call each other on the phone. And all of that data is also a network. But our organization is particularly interested in developing tools that facilitate better understanding of the web of connections that form on the internet when we do these things. And these are what we like to refer to as the internet verbs. It's what you do when you are online about 99% of the time. And all of these actions essentially create a tie, a connection, a link. And the goal of our application, the Node XL application, is to facilitate a way of thinking, to encourage people to essentially think link, to, in their research, imagine not just the attributes of A and B, but to explore the ways in which A has a connection to B, or, under some circumstances, B has a connection to A. And in network theory, it's important for you to understand that not all edges flow in both directions. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Different relationships create potentially imbalanced connections in which B relates to A at a greater rate than A relates to B. And again, in some cases, the relationship goes in both directions. Some cases, it doesn't. Social media platforms are often very different from one another. Facebook is not YouTube. YouTube is not a wiki. A wiki is not a blog. Blogs are not email. And so this is a diverse landscape of social media platforms. However, the good news is there is the one data structure to bind them all. Essentially, if they do not create a network, if they do not allow you to link one person to another person, albeit indirectly, then it's not social media. So what we in our project are interested in doing is facilitating your access to getting information about connections in a form that most researchers can handle. Now, I can't see you, but maybe Nina can do this for me. How many of you are software developers? How many programmers are in the room? And maybe Nina can type a number. You can just say a lot, a few, none. How many programmers are in the room? I'm going to assume that it's not 100%. 2. What's the total population of the room? 2. No. So I'm going to assume that it's not that many people are programmers. Oh, well, good to see you all. But how many of you feel comfortable with a spreadsheet? Our project's goal is to say, if you can make a pie chart, you can now make a network chart. We can now help you build one of these things. We can get data for you, analyze it, visualize it, draw a picture of it, and even publish it. And you will need to learn 0 lines of programming. And even when it is set up, you'll find that you'll have to spend 0 seconds making a new one. It does take a little while to set up the first one, but after that, pretty quick. So our organization is the Social Media Research Foundation, and we seek to have open tools, open data, and open scholarship related to social media. And so we built this tool, the Network Overview discovery and exploration add-in for Excel. That's Node XL. And this is the book, Analyzing Social Media Networks with Node XL. And these are my fine quality co-authors. Let me just mention them and their names. That would be Derek Hansen, and he is a professor of information science, no longer at University of Maryland. He is now at Brigham Young University in the state of Utah in the United States. This is Ben Schneiderman. Ben is a luminary in the world of computer science, and particularly an advocate for user interface design and information visualization. The three of us wrote this book about how to use Node XL to map social media. This follows on this breakout bestseller, no doubt you're aware of, Communities in Cyberspace, with my now sadly departed co-author Peter Kollick. So our goals, we would like there to be a free and open browser, not that different from Firefox, but where Firefox is for browsing a page, we want Node XL to be a browser for, well, webs or networks. We want to actually see networks or make them visible for people who are mostly comfortable with building pie charts or line charts. So not programmers is our goal, our user population target. So again, our goals, open tools, open data, open scholarship. You can find us on the web at nodexl.codeplex.com. And I'll show you that again in a second. And you can download this thing and it plugs into Excel and you get a menu. A new menu. It's the Excel menu, but now there's the Node XL ribbon in that menu. You get a bunch of new buttons to get data, store it, analyze it, visualize it, and publish it. We also are very interested in this idea of open data, that we want there to be the ability for researchers to collect, aggregate, archive a collection of data. And so we hope you'll come and visit us at nodexlgraphgallery.org. And at this site, you'll find now more than 20,000 networks representing all sorts of kinds of data. A lot of Twitter data, but Facebook and YouTube and Flickr and others. And it's a place for our users to share tips and tricks, and they can share their best practices. So the last of the three goals is open scholarship, and we seek to contribute to both the computer science literature, but also the social science literature. So we're publishing about doing technical tricks that improve the ease of network visualization, but we're also publishing on what we can see when we study social networks through the tool. Most recently, our big publication was with the Pew Research Internet Project, and it documents the 6 basic network patterns that we've identified in social media. So there are many thousands of networks in social media, but we find that there are 6 patterns that appear over and over again, and I'll talk about that in just a second. So in order to get social media data and process it into a network analysis, you have to work your way through these 5 steps. I'm going to touch on these briefly. It is necessary to get the data. The data is out there on all of these internet social media platforms, but the challenge has been accessing the data, particularly if you are not a programmer. If you are not a programmer, then you basically needed to find a programmer. And our goal is to say, if you would like to get data from Twitter search network data, you would just click there. And if you did that, you would get this dialog box, and you could type any hashtag you want, any URL, any username, any phrase, anything you want could be typed in there. We could say, give me 10,000 tweets, and hit OK, and we're done. It'll go get you data, and it'll even put it somewhere for you. Rather than putting it in a database, we found that the best place to put it is someplace that most users feel comfortable manipulating data, and that would be Excel. And so here in Excel, you'll find a number of worksheets in a Node Excel workbook. And one of those worksheets is simply the list of everybody in the network. This is the vertices worksheet, the list of everyone in the network. And here you're seeing a visualization of the network, a picture of the collection of connections, a visualization of the web of replies and mentions going on in Twitter. In this case, it is a conversation centered on this account. This is the Gates Foundation, and they have a lot of interest in education and healthcare. And so we can see the various communities and the structures of the networks that form around this topic, Gates Foundation. So when we get you your data, we could draw a picture of it, but we also need to analyze the data. Node Excel will calculate a range of network metrics for you. Typically, we suggest just calculate them all, although there are cases in which the size of your data set may require being more selective. But Node Excel will calculate a wide range of network metrics. And then, of course, we need to draw a picture of the graph for you. So that is something we are very focused on doing automatically. These kinds of pictures can be generated with zero human intervention. Once they are configured, we can make hundreds or even thousands of these, and you don't have to do much. In fact, we can email these reports to you so that you could be watching a topic. You could set up Node Excel so that it emails you every day or even every hour. You go to great effort to get this data, analyze this data, visualize the data. But if we do not allow you to share the data easily, then all of this is not very valuable. What we need to do is enable publication. And so either via email or through the graph gallery, you can upload your graph. So, do we have a question there, Nina? Okay, let's see. Very good. Okay. What I'll do is just show you this pattern before we go. When we've used the tool, we've been able to identify these 6 patterns. And here you can see those in sort of schematic form: divided, unified, fragmented, clustered, and then in and out, hub and spoke. I'm going to show you this with real data. These are real networks from Twitter that represent these different patterns. And I will just quickly show them to you in large form. And then I'd be happy to take questions, and maybe if you can start typing them, I will take them. Or maybe we can open up the microphone in just a second. So this is the divided pattern. People talking about taxation policy in the US, not a very unifying topic, and it's very divided. This is a professional topic. It's very unified. Most people talk to most people in this group. This is a brand discussion. It's very fragmented. Most people do not talk to anybody, even though they're talking, in this case, about a mobile phone. They're not talking to each other about it. This is a clustered discussion. This is the hub and spoke pattern. And this is the opposite of the hub and spoke pattern, in which the center replies to many rather than many reply to the center. So this is why we think you want to do it, because you'd like to know what your topic looks like. And let me just bring you up to this. This describes how you might move from one state to another. So I'd love to take your questions. Let me just say that if you would like a map and you have a topic that you would like to be mapped, just visit us at connectedaction.net. And there's a form. You can just ask for one and I will email you. So with that, let me say thank you, and I'd be happy to take any questions you have. And if you'd like to open the microphone, I'd be happy to hear you. Here, by the way, are just a few web resources. I encourage you to go take a look. This is NodeXLGraphGallery.org. This is the Social Media Research Foundation, smrfoundation.org. You'll find out a lot about our projects there. This is the NodeXL distribution site at nodexl.codeplex.com. And I do encourage you to visit the Pew Research Internet Project, and you'll find here on that page a link to mapping Twitter topic networks from polarized crowds to community clusters. That brings you here, and this report came out earlier this year, and it describes the 6 different patterns we've discovered, gives you a detailed description of each of the patterns. So, and last but not least, come and visit us at connectedaction.net, and you'll see request a NodeXL social media map, and there's the form. You just fill this out and hit submit, and I'll send it to you. So any questions out there, Nina? I don't know if you want to type them for me, or I guess I should tell you that you can always contact me. You can find me right here at mark@connectedaction.net.
Okay, we can type in a couple of short questions to Mark, if anyone would like to.
So, I don't know if can you open the microphone, or are there any questions?
Anything?
Oh, great. Okay, very good.
My question is very short. Why do you talk about crowds? Is there any something else in social media except crowds? Or all social media are crowds? And type thank you for your presentation.
Why do I talk about crowds, and are there any other topics? Well, I guess I am imagining that every topic you can discuss on the internet has created a crowd. And I guess I'm using the word crowd instead of the word community in order to recognize the fact that not all of these crowds are communities. And in fact, the 6 different types suggests that, in fact, very few of them are, quote, communities. Many of them are audiences or just crowds, which is to say disconnected people. So I guess I'm using the word crowd as a metaphor for the idea of a population in social media, and I'm reserving judgment as to whether or not all of them or even any of them are communities. So this is a discussion of a topic about internet freedom. It's not clear that it's a community. It's a broadcast. It has a lot of these hub and spoke patterns. People retweet this account, but they're not talking to each other. So I don't know if that addresses that question, if you want to have a follow-up, but I think we're talking about not just crowds per se, but any topic network that exists in social media could be studied in this way. Is there a follow-up or another question?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. You can't hear us, but we can write you a thanks. Well, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, my question for you will be to encourage you to come visit us at connectedaction.net and fill in this form. I'd like to make maps that are for topics of interest to you. Part of our goal is to build an international collection of topic maps. So thank you very much for the time, and I wish I could be there for the rest of NetClo. So thank you for letting me be there virtually.
Thank you, Mark. Goodbye. Well, we can just as a symbol. Yep. So I guess we can stop it. Yeah. Great.